What's up, everybody, and welcome to this Chattanooga Film Festival 2026 Q&A session. Today we're talking about Bunny, which is having its U.S. premiere with us on the virtual side of the festival this year. Here's a log line. In the aftermath of a climate collapse, a young woman roams the ruins of a world she never got to grow up in. Raised on old books and B-movies, she lives alone in the shack she once shared with her father. Supplies are scarce and food is running out. There's nothing left to hunt except other people, of course. Joining me are writer, director, and co-composer James Branson, alongside producer and production designer and costumer Taylor Thompson, and finally, co-composer and actor appearing in the film as the Intruder, Ôntrei. Welcome to the CFF family, y'all, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Matt. It's really great to be here. We're really excited to show the film to a United States audience.
Woohoo! Thank you for having us.
Hi.
Yes, absolutely. Hello there. Hello.
I'm enjoying Trey's background, which is a bathroom.
I saw that. It's wonderful. I love it.
Channeling my Slavic.
So I know that our audience is full of independent filmmakers and others who want to get their own independent productions started. So I'd really just like to start with the story of how Bunny, which was fully independently produced, as I understand it, how did it get off the ground? Just tell that story, and you guys can talk over each other, jump in whenever you need to, and just take it away.
Yeah. I mean, the background to the story was actually a documentary that I made in 2019 about a cult. And they were like a sex cult that lived in a small town in rural New South Wales, which is about 7 or 8 hours away from the next major city. And I made this documentary about this cult living out there. And it'll never see the light of day, unfortunately, because all the members have escaped, and I don't really want to put their story out into the world because it'll be really upsetting for them. But there's this germ of this idea of this young woman escaping a cult that I decided to turn into a feature film, which then kind of just really morphed into other things. I don't know about other writers, but I kind of let the story tell me what it should be a lot of the time. I don't really, if it doesn't come to me, I don't bother with it often. It just trying to, so after the documentary, I made this decision to actually kind of try to tell this story as a feature film. And then it just morphed into a post-apocalyptic film somehow. I was watching a lot of Ozploitation films, like Australian B-movies from the 70s and 80s that came in the wake of the original Mad Max. And I was really interested in that world, especially the Mad Max universe. And so I began to think of the story in that way, of this young woman living in essentially the Mad Max universe, but 600 kilometers away, what was happening elsewhere, especially the early Mad Max universe. So that was kind of the germ of the story. I'd just been watching a lot of kind of female-led horror films at the time as well. My partner is a really big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's so good. And that kind of found its influence into the more supernatural parts of Bunny. And then some other films like Under the Skin and Raw, which is a great French film from 2017, I think, about a young woman coming to terms with eating meat and doing some other gnarly shit. So the story just transformed organically like that. And once the script was finished, Taylor, who I'd worked with in a commercial company for like almost 10 years, I just contacted her and said, hey, like, what do you think I need to produce this? And she came on board pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, I remember that phone call. I was sitting there thinking, gosh, I'd love to do a feature. I just felt I've been doing more short form for a while in Australia. And I said, I think it's time to do something like that. And it was strange. Then the phone rang. It was James. We had a meeting about 2 days later. He sent me the script. And I think we were shooting like 10 weeks later.
Not much longer after that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, September to maybe, it felt fast. We moved up the pre-production quite a bit to accommodate a location that was supposed to have this supposed to never rain in this place. It's have a real dry, burned out look. So we sacrificed a fair bit of pre to move it up. And that comes with its challenges. And wouldn't you know, the day we arrived,
of course it did.
It's rained. It looks like Ireland. We're going, oh my gosh. But you know, necessity's the mother of invention. And I think it still has a post-apocalyptic look. But we've never seen a crew like more mad to see green grass and daisies. And oh man, it's terrible. It's such a beautiful
I was promised
place.
Desolation. God damn it!
There were moments where we had to stop and have people like get rid of the beautiful yellow flowers that were popping up everywhere because they were really frustrating to see on camera.
James sent me the script, and what I liked about it, what I was immediately drawn to, was it felt rare to have a world to where the woman featured in it had this, you know, called an adaptation or preferences or however she was exploring her own desires, just because that's what she wanted to do, or maybe the environment. A lot of these stories, you find that something's happened to the woman. Usually a man has happened to the woman in some violent way, and there's a transformation. I think it gives a lot of there's just a lot of it's still centering that other person in the story, and I really liked this felt a bit different in that way. There was a lot of, she doesn't say much, but she still has a lot of agency, which I really liked about the story. And then I said, you know, James is a father and daughter at the end of the world. You know, because James has a daughter who's lovely, and I've met since she was little, and she's now almost 16.
Wow.
And I said, oh, but does he even know you've written this for her? And James went, do you think it's about a father? Do you think that's, I was like, James, it is clearly, you know, inspired by Evie. It's one of those things. I think what he was saying is true about how he lets, when the story comes through, he just gets it on the page, and he doesn't overthink it in the best way. So it can exist in its own bit. So that was really funny, really fun to explore with him. And James is such a great collaborator. I really appreciated him being so open in the beginning to looking at, I'd really like to investigate the script and see what we're getting into. And it was a really fun pre-process. Stressful, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Ôntrei, how did Bunny come to you?
Bunny came to me because the actor originally cast for it got fired. And then a girl that James and I sort of mutually knew from 10, 15 years ago. And I think we'd maybe crossed paths 10, 15 years ago. I don't know. I don't actually. Yeah. There's some weird synchronicities between James and I over the years without going into details. But
what Trey's trying to allude to is that we met because we were both sleeping with the same girl at the same time. And
she preferred me.
She preferred Trey. I was actually living with her. I lived with her. This was like 10 years ago. I lived with her, but we were casually seeing each other, so it was fine. And I walked up to her room one night expecting to stay over in her room, and there was Trey in the middle of the bed, completely naked. And I was just, instead of
you jumped in,
instead of getting angry, I just said hello, you know. And then, you know, we didn't see each other for a long time after that. And when I was, you know, the Intruder that Trey plays, we had to, the actor originally cast for that wasn't able to do it, and I was like, this is like maybe.
That's such a nice way of saying fired.
Yeah, sure.
Wasn't able to do it.
Well, he's still a very good. He's still a close friend of mine, actually. Which is fun.
He remains a collaborator. It just wasn't quite.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He's helping us write something else right now. Yeah. So after, you know, this maybe a month before we shot, I needed a new cast member, and was just racking my brain for like weirdos that I knew, who had the right energy. And Trey somehow popped into my head. And then I had to get your number from my ex-girlfriend.
From Elsa, yeah. I got a random message from his ex saying, would you want to do a movie? And I was like, you know what? It feels like a very movie time in my life. So I did it.
I remember when James sent me Trey's headshots, it just felt, you just see it. Just everything about all the posture, the way he was. I was quite concerned about the Intruder character because as it was originally written, you just didn't want it to fall into this trope of just kind of this classic incel, right? It needed to have a lot of layers to it. We needed to feel something. And Trey brought
A real incel attitude to it.
There was a charm you brought to it. That was a character I was most kind of not concerned about, but thought it needed a deft touch, needed a little something extra on it to make it special. And Trey embodied it in a way that I think brought a lot of charm and a lot of empathy to it, while still kind of getting under your skin in the right way. And
vulnerability as well. You know, vulnerability and campiness. I think there's like an element of camp to Trey's performance that I really, really love.
Oh man, the outtakes for that should be on the special features. Trey, when he was running, there were so many lines that you made him funny in a way that we didn't expect. And we were spoiled for choice when we were cutting it. That should be. We'll put that on the DVD.
Well, I think that's like the best part of movie making as well, is not the actual product, but all of the experiences and moments that you get to have and share with the cast and crew that's sort of secretly yours for the rest of your life.
Are you saying it's not the destination, it's the journey?
Oh, don't say it like that.
It's true though. It is. It's the process.
True. It's 100% true.
It is true. Like any artist or musician or whatever, I don't really make movies. You know, obviously I make movies because I want to make money out of them and have a career as a filmmaker and be able to put things out into the world and to like feel understood by the world. That's like the motivation as an artist, right? But like if you're not in love with the process of doing it, you're never going to be good at it. And I think like one thing that we all really enjoy a lot is just the actual like doing of the filmmaking, you know, and the doing of the music and all of that. It's just like such a pleasure to do.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
No, go on.
I was just going to say that it's a unique position as an actor as well to sort of be bequeathed the responsibility of doing a score as well, and it just brings you in at a much earlier process where you're it's almost, I'm not going to say you're the director, but the relationship you have with the director is not 50-50, but it's pretty close. You know, the sound is going to set the tone and the images are going to react to that tone. If we did a circus music over the top of it, it'd be a very, very different movie. So I think that was very unique. I probably accepted the role just wanting the music in the first place, and it kind of played out where the role itself was pretty eye-opening and self-exploratory.
With Trey in the pre-production, shopping for getting his characters, getting the Intruders look and feel, and going to different op shops or, you know, designing some of the pieces that we had for Trey was a delight. Trey's, how are you? 6'4", just very small, and Trey's done some fashion modeling as well. So he just can cut these incredible shapes and poses with his body. And I think that was one of my most fun days in pre, was doing our styling with you. And then it's actually James's mom is an artist, and she helped do, you know, sew the practicals for some of the longer willowy pieces, and that was a real delight too. I enjoyed that.
She had to, because my taste is just too expensive. We kept going to the op shops, and I just kept pulling out the items that were like $600.
He had pulled the only thing in the store that was $1,200. Everything else was $35. I'm like, okay, all right.
You know, I have a best for life.
We need to keep to a budget for this fucking film, Trey.
Yeah, I know.
You just watch Taylor's face just get redder and redder and redder, and it's like, oh, it's purple now. I haven't seen that shade of purple before.
You need to look after the star.
I have that same habit as Trey's. I'll go into a store, and that tends to be the sad element of, if you pick up the thing, it's the most expensive. But I think that, I mean, the world we were building, it lent itself. When you're doing particularly something that's, you know, self-financed or extremely, you know, independent or lower budget, it's you can really push yourself creatively to think outside the box. But it helps if you pick something, if you write something or pick a project that lends itself to that, right? This world makes sense to have those, you know, clothes you could find from an op shop or something to that effect. We also like to have a value system for the film, as you know. We don't want to promote overconsumption or things like that to a point. So it was nice to support some of the local op shops in Sydney and do that. But it's nice when you can have the time and space. Losing that time in pre for the location meant we couldn't make as many pieces from scratch as we wanted. So having James's mom's help with the actual practicals of that was great. And then trying to get this toned where it wasn't too Mad Maxy. It's the beginning of the world. They haven't gone through too much yet. How do you kind of build that look? I think one of the first pieces James actually found was Bunny's red jacket. So, it's kind of, this is the core idea and everything else built out. Oh, and the
so iconic.
The girl,
like it's just it's such a great, like, even maybe a central image. Like I think it's sort of essential to the look of the film.
I think so too. It just pulled to focus exactly what this needed to look like. And we, as a team, now love that jacket. It lives in it's around here somewhere, but it's now
you've got the jacket still.
Oh, for sure. It's
wondering where the fuck that was.
Oh yeah, it's here now. It's in the home office. We have some office space in this cool part of Sydney that we need to get the wardrobe racks in. So I'll be happy to get them out of storage in my house, to be honest.
Great movie.
Yeah. The other part of this was finding pieces. We shot the interiors for the cabin in an Airbnb that was really lovely. Just gorgeous, glossy magazines everywhere, beautiful cups and mugs and all sorts of things. So we had to bump everything out and pull in pieces that had a survivalist point of view or purpose for the world, and it needed to move through time. And they also needed to be things that people could break. So I had to have multiples of things that, when you find from an op shop is a bit of a challenge. But RIP that guitar that Andy smashes. I really enjoyed that process with this team. It was really hands-on with everyone. We didn't have a ton of time to have these chats and then go separately. So we'd bring the cast with us when we were out to help them build the world with us, which was really, really fun. If you're making an independent film, I suggest finding a crew and a cast that you really love doing those things with, that can be collaborative and you can kind of.
Yeah, that's interesting how we use the time, to find costumes, we'd bring the actors along, of course, to thrift stores and wherever we went. And that was such a great time for us to just talk about the characters with the actors as well and immerse ourselves in it in a way that felt natural. So that was really fun.
I'd also say when you have a constrained budget, and particularly when you're wearing a lot of hats, something does suffer, right? If you're having to do 3 things, you're going to do 3 things only as well as you can do them at the same time, right? You might be able to do one of those things to the max capacity. So that was tricky. There's, even if your leads love a certain tank top, there's only one of them, and you have to go time jump a lot, say no. Go get just a regular pack of tees that you can pre-age and wear and have them labeled and done, so you're not having to switch back. Do not cave. I cannot impress upon that enough. Please.
Continuity matters.
And don't watch for that tank top too hard either. Just have a little grace with it. I think mostly fine.
Hopefully most of the people watching this have already watched the movie, but if you haven't yet, ignore the tank top.
It looks great. It's just one of those things that probably I'll notice. Oh, that was supposed to be about 5 years later or earlier, whatever it was. And there's a lot of layering in the film. And James says, Taylor, no one notices that. We were watching the Goodfellas edit, and there's a continuity with the cigar going back and forth. And he says, they're not going to notice, but there's things that
I was just about to mention Marty Scorsese. He doesn't give a fuck about continuity. His coverage doesn't match anything. He does not care. And I think mostly he's right that people don't notice, but sometimes you notice.
Well, if they notice the continuity problems, then you've got bigger problems with your film, right? Then they're not really noticing the performances or the story. And especially on an independent film, the thing you said about coverage, right? We're a micro budget film with a pretty limited cast and crew, and shooting too much coverage would have just exhausted our team, and also we would have run out of time, So we had to be very careful with the way we shot the film. I'd kind of edited the film in my head before we shot it, and so thankfully that allowed us to kind of not overshoot and know that we had it.
Right. Stick to the storyboard and be like, we don't need a bunch of extra shit. Yeah.
I had not worked with a director in a long time, or even when I direct, I had not been doing this as much. I think that speaks to time in pre, but James and our cinematographer spent a lot of time with the boards, and I don't have a lot of faith in that sometimes especially when you're responsible for production design. You want to make sure that if they do want to turn the camera a little more this way, that way you're ready to capture it when you're smaller budget, but that can lead to overkill or exhaustion or over propping or prepping. And James was so good. I had a hard time, even if a director says they want that, this is the way I direct, but you kind of go, I want to be ready. But James was so to the boards, which was a huge blessing, very decisive about those things. And it let everyone kind of not have to over worry about things that it needed to worry about. This is a really nice thing about working with James. And I think it saved us in the end, and it saved us in the edit, man.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground already. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've only really asked one question. But I do want to jump back to the inspirations for this movie. It somewhat wears them on its sleeve in a way. You know, it joins a sort of a storied genre of Australian post-apocalyptic films alongside, you know, George Miller and Brian Trenchard Smith and a bunch of other guys. But I'm curious about your thoughts on how, I guess, the audience's relationship to post-apocalyptic films has changed since the first Mad Max film, and how, I guess, Bunny reflects our contemporary fears about the end of the world, I guess, as we know it.
Yeah. I mean, Mad Max, I think, is very ahead of its time because it's essentially a climate change story that was made in like 1978. I think, you know, we're all pretty worried about the end of the world right now, or the way the world is headed, from AI, which I generally hate. Well, at least in the creative process, I think it's useless, and is people that use AI creatively are cheating. But you know, and with, you know, what's going on with politics, especially in America, and that kind of shit's like slowly coming to Australia at the moment as well. Australia doesn't really have MAGA, but we've got this woman named Pauline Hanson who's pretty horrible, and of a similar ilk, who's starting to.
What do you mean? She's great.
Shut up, Trey. So she, you know, so I think we're all really worried about the end of the world and what we might have to do to survive. I'm also, Bunny certainly reflects my thoughts about the world that my daughter's going to inherit. You know, like, I've got a 16-year-old daughter, and I kind of did this subconsciously, but it was pretty apparent when Taylor pointed it out to me in the script how the film really was about my daughter and what's going to happen to the world that she inherits. So now, obviously, I don't think she's going to become a man-killing cannibal. But
spoilers ahead.
yeah, it does reflect, you know, concerns about. It's an exaggerated version, but it really does reflect genuine fears about. I don't think the world's going to get better, man. I think it's going to get worse, and that's really fucking sad. Like, I grew up in a time where at least there was the veneer of things getting better in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I don't know what's happened over the last 15 years, man, and I'm scared about it.
Yeah, I think we all feel
not very funny.
Way.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's when you cue the circus music.
Ôntrei, that's your cue. Where's the circus music?
Yeah. I would say that something that as we talk about, I think Bunny's a trilogy. James and I talk a lot about that. If we, when we have the opportunity to build out that world, I want to bring even more of the elements. They're subtle in this. They're propped around. I mean, subtle in, like, she has an iPod, an old, a lot of physical media, right? It's anything you don't have physically at the end of the world, you're not gonna be able to take with you. Some of it's subtle, like the iPod. Other things, like the obviously all the VHS tapes and magazines. You see all that everywhere. It's gonna be more important than ever to have those things. I think that's really something I thought a lot about when we were set. Yeah. How many DVDs or VHS tapes have I, donated or moved on from the day, or all these things? Or I was watching that TV show Hacks, which is brilliant and so fun. And they're talking about how it's so crucial for all these shows. If you love your shows and you're a showrunner, you're making media, to do the box set, make the DVDs, make it available physically, because that's the way we can ensure now you have something fun to watch in the apocalypse, guys. That's going to be key.
Yeah, Bunny is a little bit of a love letter to physical media as well. Like there's scenes that were cut from the film that were much more like about that, but there's still, hopefully you notice like the stack of videos that she's watching and the way that's like the film is a dedication to those kind of old type of Australian movies.
Yeah, you're in good company here at Chattanooga. I've got a stack of tapes right here behind me that I've got to digitize.
Oh damn! Are they VHSs?
Oh yeah, these are VHS. These are like just stuff that I picked up in random shops. And
no way! What are you? So they're VHSs that you've picked up from thrift stores and just have random shit on them?
Yep. Sometimes home movies, sometimes TV broadcasts. Sometimes you get like really fun stuff, like, you know, an entire day's worth of broadcasting on like MTV on some day in 1987. I've got that somewhere in my archives.
What do you do? What do you do with them? You just archive them?
Yeah, just archive them. Just digitize them and keep them for whenever I might need like a little piece of something to plug into a thing, or if I want to, you know, build some kind of visual art, you know, something or another. I don't know. It's just nice to have. I've got a big disc collection. So like we are very much physical media people here at CFF. Like it's, you know, we love the Vinegar Syndromes and the, you know, all those guys. They're doing great work.
That's rad.
And God bless the archivers.
Yeah.
All the VHSs in Bunny that you see are actually from my ex-girlfriend's collection.
Oh.
Her and her new partner have literally like, they have to have 3 extra rooms in their house to keep all their VHSs in. It's like the craziest VHS collection you've ever seen. So when I wrote Bunny, I was like, oh, God damn it, I'm going to have to call Elsa and ask her to borrow some VHS tapes.
I've had to scale back my personal collection. Yeah, like it used to take over an entire room, and it's like, I've got to get this down to a shelf that can live and be displayed in my house somewhere so the rest can go away into storage. So I sold some of them, but yeah, they do take up a lot of space.
Damn. Yeah, cool.
I remember when we were set decking building the fireplace with the tapes, James was like, do not be so careful. I do not want to have that phone call. I cannot have the phone call. They have so many, but they know exactly what titles they have. They're very into that. But I really do mean it when I say, God bless the archivers. It's a really important work, and it's, you know, now more important than ever. But there's all this history out there, these pieces. I remember one of my favorite little pieces of archival, whoever was doing the behind the Actor Studios tapes and archiving them, as well as content.
Andrew Lipton. Is it Jeremy Lipton? Sorry.
Lipton?
James Lipton.
Yeah.
Well, we got to figure out the name of the archiver, because whoever, you know, there was that one clip later in life where, who's that comedian? Doesn't matter, but who was saying, no one's becoming a big successful actor if they're at the Actor Studio asking, Dustin Hoffman what his process is. And then the archiver went back to one of those episodes and you have Bradley Cooper in the front row being like,
yep.
So Mr. Hoffman, whatever the whole thing, just love it. And if I didn't get those details exactly right, forgive me. But that's archive. It's just so important to have all the context and the pieces, and you get something delightful like that on a little light upside. But in a very you prevent erasure from all of this stuff, right?
There's an American woman, I believe, who has VHS recorded every day of PBS for like decades, and now has this incredible archive that is invaluable to historians and to journalists and all that shit.
Hot.
Dude, my parents were cleaning out their attic, and they have a whole trunk full of Dawson's Creek VHS tapes, because when I was younger, the Dawson's Creek would premiere on a Wednesday, and all of my Catholic friends who had to go to CCD or Catholic school on Wednesday nights couldn't watch it. So I'd record it and give it to my Catholic friends, and it's my the box that we have. We'll look back on that. What a collaborative thing to do. Also, interesting on those tapes, they couldn't get the license for the main theme song. So as it aired, that I don't want to wait, that Paula Cole song, they on the DVDs later, they couldn't afford that song, or they couldn't license it, whatever it was. And so it's a different song, but then they splurged for the finale on the DVDs. But I have the VHSs.
They did something similar to the Wonder Years release. That thing couldn't get a disc release to save its life for years and years and years, and it was because of music licensing. And when it finally came out, they have replaced not only a bunch of the songs that were in the show, but the theme song, the Joe Cocker, with a little help from my friends, they replaced that one, and it is all wrong. Like, it just don't feel good at all.
That's why you write your own music for your films, like me and Trey did.
That's right. That's right. You guys did a great job too. That score is so haunting and beautiful. And I did want to ask, we've already kind of gone over time, but I'm curious. You started your career as a professional musician, James. I'm speaking to you, but of course, Trey, you can jump in here. But like,
just gonna jump in for a sec.
Sure.
James was the assistant producer.
Shut the fuck up. Trey and I have this thing now where at Q&As, we're each trying to downplay the contribution of the other person in the music creation. So like at the last Q&A, Trey's like, as the primary composer of this music, so this weird competition.
I
don't choose the rules. It's just the world we live in.
I don't want to step on y'all's, internal politics or anything like that. But I was kind of curious, like, if you have any thoughts on like how being a musician maybe first informs your filmmaking or informs decisions as a filmmaker.
100%. And firstly, like a lot of the actors in the film are musicians. Trey's a musician. Andy Gollidge, who plays the father in it, is like a great country musician from Australia. I think like there's a certain kind of shorthand that you have with musicians. You're able to kind of speak their language and get into this like. There's a forthrightness when you're producing music with the fellow musicians that you can like be quite, I guess, harsh in your feedback or like direct in a way that you both know you're trying to get the best performance out of it. And so like certainly I feel very comfortable talking to musicians about the creative process and like giving feedback on it. This is my first feature film, so actors for me still are a little bit of a mystery, but musicians I totally understand, and then from just an editing point of view, like I learned to edit music before I learned to edit film. And so for me, a lot of the time when we were editing the film, I would just close my eyes and listen to the film rather than watch it. And I felt like that gave me a better idea of the tempo and the flow and whether or not scenes were working. I think it also allows you to take a bit of a improvisational approach to some stuff as well. Like I'm really comfortable with actors, not like changing their dialogue if they feel it comes natural to them in a different way. I'm really comfortable with like once we're on the set, just going, oh fuck, like this is what we planned, but let's just throw it out and do something new. I think like definitely coming from a musical background where improvisation is really encouraged, certainly has contributed to my filmmaking technique.
Awesome.
It was great working with, the director and our lead talent being composers on the set, because we got a little taste of things up front on set, not the final thing by any means, but just clips or snippets of it that could imbue the experience of even filming, which was really cool. Normally, I think that's more of a siloed process for some of the other, I don't think a lot of the other actors usually get to hear pieces of the composition while we're filming. And I think that was really, really cool. Trey also talked about his process. We've done a few Q&As, and one of my favorite things I hear him talk about is the kind of inspiration about the Eastern European side of it and what your inspiration for the strings were. I'd love for you to share that with Dustin.
Yes, please.
Oh, so I guess a lot of my musical heritage comes from family and the things that you didn't necessarily get to experience from family, because that family might have gone through a deep trauma. So you spend your life kind of connecting with that. And for me, it was connected through music. So I guess there's a lot of Middle Eastern, Slavic, large orchestral Baltic sounds that might not be super obvious, but it's more so in the rhythmic delivery and the tone of the sound, as opposed to, this is a Croatian scale or this is a Bulgarian scale. But but it's almost impossible for me to ignore. Like I can't not have it thread itself into the music. And at least when James told me about the film, I think I touched on it before. Initially, I was, it's great to act, and that's what I went to university for, but music is the primary love of my life. So that's why I kind of took the role. I wanted the music, and I could see the music. As soon as he handed me the script, it was really obvious in my head what it was going to sound like. And what James was saying before, where when he was editing it, he would close his eyes and kind of imagine the pace of it and the tone of it and what it looks like. The same thing can kind of be applied in opposite to music. Like often as a musician, you're putting a picture book up on a music stand or on a second screen. You're putting a video to try and create differently, and it's almost like the same thing applied in the opposite context. You're closing your eyes for something very visual to understand it in an auditory context, and with music it was really interesting to understand something visually and then have that translate into the auditory context.
Yeah, and like even with writing scripts, I find when I'm writing, it's really helpful if I've built even just a playlist of songs that I think are great for that particular script or that particular idea. So like Bunny, one of the first things I did when I was really getting into the script was just create a playlist of music that I thought would be great for the film. Now none of that's on the film because they're all like, massive songs from Nick Cave and Radiohead and shit. But like having something to listen to and get myself into the mood and the tone of the film is just incredibly useful. So
I think that translates to characters as well. As like we might not have that music in the film, but I guess if you were interviewing Bunny or you were interviewing Intruder, what are the music they would listen to when they put their makeshift headphones in? And
for sure.
It makes their world, not necessarily the audience's world.
Exactly.
Captured the anxiety of some of the visuals in that world really well. In 2019 and at the start of 2020, and I was telling the guys, it was a global news story, being American and also living in Australia. Earned my passport in 2023. So I think sometimes Australians, you can be, the whole world was talking about those bushfires before the other thing happened in March. It was horrific, Dustin. We'd go outside. James and I were working in a neighborhood called Surrey Hills, right in the middle of the city, and we'd go out for lunch, and the sky was orange. You'd have to almost wear a mask. Everything was burning. It was horrible. There was these bushfire maps and alerts, and just I think until you, when you experience an area that has bushfire alerts, it's hard to comprehend how it happens or how quickly it can spread or how it could just pop up somewhere else. And it's just horrific, the destruction. And the town we shot in called Toulon was just particularly impacted by this, just really, really, really dreadfully. There's a cafe that we visited when we were scouting the area, and the cafe owners, everywhere you go in those areas, or anywhere like that, you see so many emblems or iconography around firefighting and volunteer services and little bits of the history. We walked into that a corner store in the area, and they said the walls were covered with the whole history of what happened that day or over those weeks. And the actual first recorded instance of this in Australia is of a mushroom cloud happened in that area. So it's when the atmospheric elements, whatever was happening, caused sort of a suction up into the fire, went and was dropped down in a matter of minutes, about 2 hours away. So it can happen really quickly. And that's what inspires one of the Intruder's speeches about this situation. Just horrific. And the tree. So even 4 or 5 years later, when we got to shoot there, there's hope in these trees. You see the little new branches coming off, but it's still that destruction, that burn side. And then the duality of having a tree that's still so charred on one side, but you see the growth and the hopefulness on the other. It's, I don't know.
I mean, it kind of harkens to one of the lines in the movie of like, it's born from the earth. There's a part of Australia that is, it requires it. The seeds from these trees need fire to fall from the trees. And I'm sure if we listened to our indigenous custodians a bit more, we might have a better management of the way we can sort of wrangle these fires, because it's almost like the land is in conversation with the people on it, and we've just decided to close our ears. So it's an interesting introspection from like a number of contexts.
Certainly when it was happening in LA more recently, it's one of the things I think a lot of people in Australia really were deeply empathetic and concerned, because it's just horrible to see. But life carries on, life finds a way, as we know from our favorite Jeff Goldblum quotes. But I think that's really an important thing about the film is bringing it to light. This is what it looks like after. There's a visual beauty in that sort of look. And then it's a national park where we shot some of the more open scenes, and you see those logs and how it looks. It's just so wild to see what it looked like before and then have this moment for it. James is an expert location scout. He travels far and wide, and he'll narrow it down, and I'll go check out the spots. I went, this is it. This is the whole story. And as a production designer, thank you, because I did a lot of heavy lifting to be able to get that look, especially in those outdoor scenes. It looks really cool. I also want to bring up, we don't have him on the call, but the other music component to the film is Andy Gollage.
Yeah. So Andy's the country musician who plays the father, and his song in the middle of the film really is the heart of the film to me.
The people, when you see this video, you may or may not have seen a film called Bunny. We are in the process of considering whether we want to change the name. So we wanted to chat to you about what you think. This is a video from the future, everyone. It's very exciting. So we'd be remiss not to bring it up now, just in the off chance that we've talked about Bunny so much and it's maybe a different name. So, okay, do we want to run Dustin through a few of them?
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear this. I didn't know I was going to get to hear some. This is exciting.
Yeah.
The issue is, Dustin, that there's another film named Bunny that came out in the United States around the same time as we did. And so people are getting confused. We've had film festivals that we've been playing at put up the wrong trailer, like a trailer for the other film named Bunny.
Oh, that's
with our synopsis. It's not like we accidentally got picked. Yeah, with our synopsis, it's the wrong collateral. But
so we're actually thinking of changing the name.
The other film, Bunny, also premiered at South by Southwest in Austin. So there's a lot of that.
So if you like Bunny Rabbit, calling it just a film called Bunny. We had FKA Bunny. We have a few others. I don't know. I don't love any of them so far, to be honest.
I think you guys were talking about Bunny.
Exclamation mark.
When I was in college, we you can use this if you want. When I was in college, we did a short film series about a stuffed rabbit who comes to life and kills people. It's kind of a slasher movie type thing, and we called it Bunny Inferno. And it was like Dante's Inferno, like the levels of hell, but it's like a bunny rabbit chasing you through the levels of hell, killing you.
Okay.
Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah.
Credit. Boom.
I love it. For me, kind of making putting it in the universe, it's like Bunny Part 1.
Yeah.
Which and then we thought, I think we've landed on sticking with Bunny somewhere in the title, but we did push it out, and kind of one of the ones I liked outside of Bunny was Possum. In Australia, okay, to clarify as well, in Australia, the possums here they're closer to like raccoons / bunnies themselves. They're really, I showed James a picture of an American possum. He was like, oh my God. So it's a different thing, but I think there's context in the film about her reactions or how they engage with each other that it lends itself to that. And then Possum is a nickname that Australian parents might call their children affectionately.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, but that's a bigger ask in terms of all the assets and collateral. So I personally, I like a film called Bunny. That's what our social handles are anyway. And I like the meta nature of it. I like to, when someone says, oh, what's your film called? Oh, it's a film called Bunny. I feel like it's just changing it, but staying as close to what it was as possible. And we already own the website.
I like that. I think that could work well. I'm sure you're going to get lots of suggestions in your Discord, your dedicated Discord channel for Bunny, as it's currently called. If it happens to change mid-festival, we can change the name of your channel on Discord. We have that power, so just let us know. We can do that. I've had a great time with this chat, guys. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or anything?
Yes. Okay. To everybody that's watching this, please review us on Letterboxd.
They will. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. If you hate the film, don't. But if you if you hate the film, just maybe bump it up a few stars out of generosity of your own hearts. But yes, please review us on Letterboxd. We'd love to see the reviews. I actually like engaging with them as well. Even reviews that are kind of somewhat critical of the film, I found useful. And so yes, if you can take home any message from this Q&A, please review us on. I'll look at the camera. Please review us on Letterboxd or IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. Just review us. Review us, please.
That is compelling.
I think Americans are going to have a hard time finding RottenTomatoes.com. I think they'll look for Rotten Tomatoes instead.
I think we're currently sitting around 80 reviews. So looking at you, Chattanooga audience.
Help us pump it up.
We want to get to at least 200.
Yep. We're going to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and I would like to say this. James and I are, really passionate about, the indie filmmaking community and how we can contribute our knowledge to it. So if there's anyone out there who wants to have a chat with us, we're happy to share our knowledge. Hit us up. We love to hear from you.
Not so much. Not really.
That's exactly what the Discord is for, though. The Discord is a great place for people to interact with you about the film or just bullshit about anything. That's kind of where conversations about Bunny and beyond will live.
And we want to say thank you so much again, Dustin, and a thank you to Ashley. You guys are running a hell of a festival.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank our audience for joining us. And thanks to you guys for allowing us to unleash this beast onto its first American audience. It's amazing. I'm the first of many, I'm certain. Before we go, you may have mentioned it before, but one more time, let them know where they can find updates on Bunny's festival run and distribution journey and all that stuff.
It's on socials. It's at A Film Called Bunny, and website is afilmcalledbunny.com.